Hey everyone, Jamal here with Review Me, and this is the first seminar, or I should say first session in our first course taught by the awesome Jennifer Turner, and it's the Photography Industry Explained, and she's going to get into the general overview of the industry, and she'll also talk about all the different sessions that she's going to be going over. She's based in London. Ren Artists is her agency. She's also the director. She does production and film work. Fashion photography, art, fine art photography, commissions, and she'll get into more of her background. So without further ado, let's turn it over to the awesome Jennifer Turner.
Cheers, so yeah, I'm here in London. I know a lot of you are in the States and possibly across Europe too. I'm an agent. I recently opened an agency called Ren Artists. We're actually a year old as of this week, so it's a really big week for us. And yeah, I thought I'd start the 4 seminars talking about London, the industry in London and what it looks like. It might feel exactly like the industry in America and Europe, but I always think every kind of geographical place has its sort of own quirks. We're then going to talk, so that will be today. We'll just sort of do a general overview. Then over the next 3 after this, we'll be going through different subjects. So today we'll keep on the sort of industry and introduction, and at the end we'll do some question time. So if there's anything sort of that we don't manage to answer in this session, we'll then answer it. I'll either build it into our next ones or we'll do question time for the next ones. And actually, I think Garen, who's already on here, asked some really good questions earlier, and I've already been taking notes going, yeah, that's so what is it to be a photographer and agent in London at the moment? I was just talking to Jamal about this. There's so many photographers now. We're in the sort of peak of our industry, and it means the competition is really, really high. We feel that as agents, and you feel that as photographers, but also I think the commissioners feel that too. So how do I put it? So I suppose when a commissioner has got a project, they're looking at all the different photographers and the sort of things that they have to look for in photographers, I think is really interesting for us. So you get some brands go and use the same photographer over and over and over again. And that really bores me because I'm like, no, use my photographer, use something interesting. But I sort of look at that and think, what's that all about? And I think the pressures are everyone's got to be seen to be doing what they do and doing it really well. There's a lot of talk in the press at the moment about production coming out of advertising agencies, and because the clients aren't trusting that the advertising agencies are doing their job properly, and that they're sort of ripping them off on production. So, you know, there's that pressure, which then boils down to us as well, because we get the same job and that sort of thing. So when it comes to the photographers that they're looking for, they want a safe pair of hands, someone that they know that they can throw their slightly tight budget at and they'll get a good job done for them. I think there's also this sort of need for something new and fresh. So on the side of, we want a safe pair of hands, but we also want to be seen to be doing real work. I think to do with the sort of fact that we're all the time at the now, like whether it's on our Facebooks or our Instagrams and all that sort of thing. So I think there's a real sort of divide in what it is, or is divide even the right word? Maybe like a tension as to people want this safe pair of hands, but then they also want something exciting. And I think that's where an agent's job come in, because you can be the agent who goes, yeah, I can produce your work for a really good quality and a really good standard, but I've also got exciting photographers who you might not have used before. And that's what's exciting for you guys, because I think most of the people we're talking to are emerging photographers, so that's sort of the breaking point of where you want to get into the industry. Now, so I'm just going to look at my notes. So for an agent, that's really important to do. I spend most of my time watching and looking at what my market is wanting and what they're demanding, and trying to make sure that my photographers fit that to a certain level. I don't mean following the trends as such. I'm actually a really strong believer of not following a trend and trying to be confidently who you are and sort of sticking at it. Like, for example, a couple of years ago, and we're still in part of that, is we had this sort of boom of lifestyle photography, cross photography. And if you were a lifestyle photographer, it was a fantastic moment because there was just so much demand for lifestyle photography. But what I found really difficult was we got lots of sort of straight photographers, like portrait photographers, who were going, okay, I'm going to step out of the studio and I'm now going to do lifestyle. And they started doing lifestyle badly. And at the time I was representing a photographer who did that. And I was going, no, just leave it a year. It doesn't matter if you don't get a commission for a year, and just hold your ground, because portraiture will come back. And so it's sort of not that following of the trend, but just sort of going, right, okay, people want flexibility, so they want to have their usage paid differently, or they want to know that they can turn something around in the time that they need to for the digital medias, which are so much quicker than what the print medias used to be. So there's that sort of thing. And then that boils down to then when you're looking for a photographer. So I'll jump back actually, because I didn't talk about the agency. So Ren Artists is a year old, which actually means that I've spent a lot of time over the last 2 years talking and looking at photographers and trying to work out who it was that I wanted to represent. I was really lucky and worked sort of at the beginning of my career with some of the best photographers in the industry. And it was, I sort of did that for about 4 years until I went, right, okay, I want to start up my own agency. And I didn't start up my agency straight away. I really took my time, which a real dear friend said to me, like, just take your time, don't rush. And he honestly was so right. So that's one thing that I would say to anyone is, being a photographer or being successful in the photography industry is a long game. And I say it to my photographers all the time, it's a long game. So the work that we're doing now will get us work in a year's time, or even a year and a half's time. And so, it's one of the most important things as a photographer is patience, dedication, and passion, I suppose, because you need to be able to be knocked back quite a lot and keep going. Because as a photographer, you'll experience that talking to agents, because there's so many photographers reaching out to agents who then won't get back to you, or if they do get back to you, they say, oh, sorry, the house is full, and that sort of thing. And then on an agent side, we do exactly the same, but on the behalf of our photographers, trying to talk to clients and sending millions of emails or millions of phone calls and trying to get back to people. So when I started up Ren, I had sort of been working in the industry for 7 years, and I decided that I wanted to be really brave with the photographers that I represented, and work with people who I just felt had a really distinct style, so that there wasn't many other people in the industry who were the same as them. And now that's really ideal, because everyone likes to think that they're individual. And I am really biased because they're my photographers, but I do think most of my photographers are individual. But actually, at the same time, I think it's something to be aware of, is that everyone wants to be different, and that's, how can I put it? I suppose everyone needs to have their own niche, and there will always be competition. So one of my photographers, Luke Stevenson, is quite unique, and actually there's not many people like him throughout the industry, but there's a lot of competition for him. So, you know, he will always go up against 3 people on a job, if not more. Sometimes we're up against 3 photographers, and then there'll be an illustration route, so you're then up against 3 illustrators, and then there might be a CGI route. So actually, you're not just a 1 in 3 chance, you might be a 1 in 9 chance of getting your job. So yeah, so that's why I started up the agency, really. I thought, well, you know, let's just go for something and see how it works. And so far it's been really good, and we've been getting the jobs that I wanted to get, and sort of we're getting less jobs, but the right kind of jobs. So we go, right, okay, we're getting the pick of that job, and we're getting this one, which we feel really proud to be making. So that was sort of the intention. So when we're looking at photographers, it's really, there's so many different things. The first thing is it's a bit like dating. You meet a photographer, you get an immediate sense as to what they're like and whether you get on with them, and that's really important, because if I don't get on with a photographer, then there's a chance that, like, I need to know that that photographer can be sent into one of my clients without me being there, and that my client will be happy to talk to them and spend time with them. So I think that's one key thing, is the photographer, sort of the personality match between photographer and agent. And then, so that's one of the things I'm looking for all the time. A lot of the time commissioners are looking for that too, because if you're hiring a photographer for a 5-day shoot in South Africa, the rest of the crew have to get on with them too. So, you know, that's another sort of thing, like a paralleled interest between commissioner and agent. What was the other thing I was going to say? So there was personality, creativity and dedication for me is really key. When I was meeting photographers, I was really surprised. I was so shocked, actually, that I met so many people who didn't love what they did. I don't really know why anyone would go into our industry if they didn't love photography. And I think everyone can get a bit sort of worn down from it, because it's hard and it's a bit relentless. But you have to remember why you're doing it. And if the reason you're doing it is because you love it, then just sort of keep that on your mind. I really love what I do, so I want the photographers that I work with to match that kind of passion and dedication. And I want to know that if I'm working really, really hard to get them work, that they're working just as hard to make personal work or develop themselves and their career alongside me. So I'm just looking at my notes to remember what I'm talking about. So yeah, so there's the passion, the sorry, my mind's gone blank. So anyway, so the next thing is reliability. When you're looking at a photographer's portfolio, as a commissioner or an agent, one of the questions I ask myself is, could I trust this person with a budget and a crew of 6 people to deliver the job? And the answer has to be yes, because there's a lot of money in what we do, and even a small shoot, which is £5,000, or like a big shoot, which can be up to £500,000 or more, you need to know that that person's going to deliver what the client wants, because in the end, as an agent, your reputation is your photographer's reputation. So looking through portfolios, I think I often say to sort of up and coming photographers, okay, it's really clear that you can make a really beautiful image, or you can kind of craft something like this, but what part of that image did you put your kind of stamp on? So whether, like, you know, we can all frame a stunning, well, we can't all frame a stunning image, there's lots of people who can't. Photographers mostly can frame a beautiful image, but what is it that you did which was part of that? So, you know, it doesn't necessarily mean you have to construct every image in front of the camera. But I always think if you're a photographer who's shooting people in a scenario, so if you're in a park and you're just shooting, I don't know, somewhat like a girl running across the park and her skirt's blowing, like, have you just caught that picture because you were in the moment with your camera, which we always see on Instagram. There's this terrible quote, which is the best photo, I think it says the best photo you can ever take is the one that you had your camera for or something, and it's got a big picture of an iPhone. And I don't believe it, because we craft photos all the time for our jobs. And I suppose what the point is going, if there's a part of the image that could be decided upon by you. So if you go, right, okay, there's this scene, I want to capture that person who's running across this part of that scene. But actually the composition would work much better if I put the chair to the left rather than to the right. Like, I always encourage people to do that, because it's only those tiny, tiny little stages which make the difference in terms of, it's those little things that then create something that you would have to do in an advertising shoot. So advertising agencies are always going, right, okay, this is our concept, and this is what we want to do, and how do we craft that? So it's that sort of craft element of going, actually, even in my personal work, I can sort of work out whether something looks better here, there, and everywhere. And sorry, excuse me 1 second. Jamal, is it possible to pause the? Is it possible to pause the video?
Yeah, we'll jump on real quick. Everybody, feel free to throw in a question as we go through each section, or you can add them underneath, as far as what Jennifer has touched upon so far, which I believe obviously is the intro, part 2, you know, running through the seminars, the overview of the UK industry, as well as, you know, what commissioners and agents are looking for.
Okay,
and she's
I'm
back.
really sorry, I'm back. I had my maintenance man outside the window waving at me. So let me just recap where we got to. What the commission's looking for. Okay, cool. So I think they're the key things that I look for in a photographer, is sort of individuality, their sort of ability to construct something. And like I said, that's completely different whatever kind of photographer you are. If you're a still life photographer, you're going to be very used to constructing something. If you're a lifestyle photographer, that might be slightly more unusual to understand. Then it's the sort of ability to work in a team. So actually, let's talk about that a little bit as well, because the construction thing is key in terms of your imprint on an image. But a lot of the time, and actually in the industry, it's become not a fad, but people like to see everyone collaborating. So when a still lifer is doing a shoot now, he's not just in his studio on his own. A lot of the time, he's with a set designer and a stylist, and it's all about the sort of team of people that come together. So, you know, that's really something quite crucial, is being able to work with a team, and getting your team together is going to be really important. I talk to my photographers a lot about this, because a lot of them have they have teams that they work with, but they might have one stylist that they love working with, and then they use that person over and over and over again, which is fine to a certain extent. But what if you can't use that person? You've got your dream job come in and you then have to use someone else. And it's fine to use new people on commercial work, but it's always much nicer if you have practiced working with them. You sort of know whether the dynamic of the team works on set. And in terms of commissioning, people will always feel happier to work with a team who have worked together, because it just comes across more confident for everyone. So I think that's another thing to consider. Now, with all of that, one of the most important things for an agent as well is the ability to be able to work with that photographer in a really honest way. So it's sometimes hard to take feedback in terms of, okay, this doesn't work, or, you know, try this, or what have you. But in the end, yours and your agent's interests should be paralleled. So if your agent is suggesting something, you know, it's because they've got your best interest at heart. And I think that's something to really be aware of, that when you're meeting agents, you often get people who are quite blunt. Actually, I think as an agent, you have to be quite blunt, because you're sort of dealing with people and having to be quite upfront with them. And actually, all of my photographers always say that they love working with me, because they know when I really like something, because I tell them, and they know when that, because if I don't like it, I'll also tell them. I'm quite quick to judge pictures. And sometimes too quick, and I'll often change my mind, and then no one knows where they are, because I've gone, oh, actually, no, I really like that one now. So, you know, that sort of ability to be able to say, I want to take on board your opinion. I want, like, you know, I have photographers email me every single day sort of asking for representation. And someone said to me the other day, this is my portfolio. I know it's not there yet, but I want someone who is going to work with me to get it to where I need it to be. And there's not that many people who say that in an email. And actually, I gave them a time really quickly. I went, okay, I can't talk to you now, but let's put some time in for a month's time or something like that. And I think it was the fact that they were just so open about the fact that they knew what it was to have an agent and work in a partnership together. So I think that's something to be aware of, really, in terms of all the different things that you have to try and be aware of when entering a relationship with an agent. So I think that's everything that I was going to talk about today. Then the next 3 seminars, we're going to be talking about not next week, but in 2 weeks' time, we're going to be talking about how to get your tools in the right place. So we'll go through more depth in terms of websites, social media presence, you know, portfolios, all that sort of thing. And then we've touched on sort of finding and meeting agents today, but I'll go through in a lot more sort of structure as to the kind of research that you might want to do before you even start contacting people, then how to contact them, and what you should maybe have prepared for when you actually go into a meeting with those people. And then the last one, although I've changed this today because one of the photographers on the line asked a really good question. So the last session, we're going to talk about sort of agreements and contracts, commissioning, and that's because I saw a contract from another agent the other day, and it really upset me because I thought it was really quite unfair towards the photographer. So that's why I built that into this talk. But also, one of the guys asked earlier, what do you see photographers doing wrong once you have represented them, or what sort of watch outs are there in your career to make sure that you kind of stay on top of your game. So I think that's a really good conclusion for these 4 weeks. So I think Jamal, is that good for today? I feel like I've sort of just talked, but that's because everyone else is listening.
Yes.
And,
Yes. Yeah, so first off, if anybody has any questions, we'll be answering those for about the next 10 to 15 minutes regarding anything that she's gone over. I think because I okay, cool. I think that's better.
We can't hear you at all.
Oh,
there you are.
Yeah, if anybody has any questions.
Here we go.
Perfect. So I've got, shall I start with
I think that's
email?
pretty perfect.
Hello from N21. Is that North London N21? I don't know. So it's a photographer's time sending out cards and promos to an agent rather than emails. Yes, I have a real strong belief about printed content, especially when it comes to photography, because a lot of the time the work is being seen as a printed piece, as the last thing. So when we're looking at a poster on a billboard or something, that's printed. So on a screen can be quite forgiving, especially with Apple making such lovely screens. So I think printed pieces are really crucial. One of my photographers, her work looks it looks lovely on a screen, but it looks like stunning printed, and we've just created a load of things just so that we can show her stuff off printed. So the answer is definitely.
Cool, awesome, Andrew. Thanks for that question. Okay, we have another one. Just,
when you meet
Olamo Fernandez, I hope I'm saying his name correctly. And so, yeah, and this gets back to what photographers or what agents are looking for. And he says, when you meet up with a photographer, do you prefer to see his or her personal work, commercial work, or both? And this could also be if you see their work online too as well.
Yeah. Yes, totally. Both of them, because I think personal is really key because it establishes that person, who they are as an artist. And there's sort of two different types of photographers. I always think you have like an artist photographer, and then a photographer who I would call is like more of a tool, like you're using them because they are technically able to deliver something. Now, like both routes are absolutely fine as a photographer, but if you are what I'd call more like an artist, then that has to come across in your personal work and the projects that you're doing. And then the commercial work comes in to just show off what you're doing and how you're able to do it. So it goes back to what I was saying earlier about that sort of ability to handle a production. And so an agent always wants to see commercial work, but also I actually don't show much commercial work for my photographers, but I've seen all of their commercial work because I know that they're able to do it. So we always have that up our sleeves to send on to clients when they need to see it, to be sort of reassured that you can work commercially.
Definitely, great question. Actually, I have a question too. Just kind of thinking about, and feel free to add more questions. We have at least another 7 minutes. I could ask questions for 7 minutes, but you guys are the ones benefiting. So, with regards to what commissioners are looking for increasingly, are there any specific things that you're seeing in the market right now, either London or Europe? Because I know some of your clients, some of your roster actually is not even based in London.
Yeah, well, actually, I had a day this week where none of them were in London for the week, so that was a really weird thing. I was like, oh, I'm the only person in London today. Yeah, we should actually talk about the sort of changes in media, because back in the day, we used to create photography which would be seen on posters and press. Like the usage would always be press and poster, and that was what it was used for. And if it was being exotic, it might go on a bus side or something. Nowadays, there's so many other different platforms that we have to address. So you're sort of looking at social media. We're doing loads of stuff for Instagram. Actually, we shoot some stuff for Instagram. And I'm stood there going, does anyone want to shoot a poster that we could put in a newspaper? And everyone's like, no, don't bother with that. Let's just shoot the stuff for Instagram. And so I suppose what's been quite interesting is for commissioners, they've had to learn different ways of commissioning photography. So they don't just have to commission still photography, they might have to commission someone who will create an animated GIF or a short film. And, you know, I actually went through a phase of that myself. When I did a year's worth of art buying at McCann, and whilst I was there, they made me do a TV production, and they just put me on this TV production and went, okay, you need to do all of that and get a director and all that kind of thing. And that's extreme. There's not many art buyers who turn TV producers. But it's a really different world. So the style types are different, all the layers of how you put music together and all that sort of editing and things. So it's something to be aware of as a photographer, because I try and work with all of my photographers on both still and moving imagery, because that's what the demand is. And if we can be experienced in terms of how to create a moving piece, then that makes our client's job a bit easier, because if they don't know what they're doing with it, then at least we go, yeah, we can do that, don't worry, we can sort it. And like, my job is always to try and make it as easy as possible for the client. So moving imagery, and that can be the sort of animated GIF up to like a proper film, is really, really key. But then saying that, I asked one of my photographers to do some moving image, and he did it, and I really didn't like it. So I was like, okay, I'm not going to push you into it, because I don't think you get it as much as some other people do. So, you know, some people do just go, oh, we don't want to do that.
Cool, exactly. So you're seeing moving images and just digital, different forms of still images and video as kind of the next frontier that people are asking for more and more.
Oh, totally. And especially in fashion are so experimental with all those things. So one of my to-do lists for this week is to download Snapchat, because I don't use Snapchat, but I want to know how marketers are using it so that I can make sure that we can deliver photography that will work for it too.
Cool, nice. And one other thing I'm seeing is in terms of, I think, number 7 on our list here is types of agents and what people are doing to reflect the current industry demands. Can you talk to that more about types of agents? Because I would get, you know, there's reps, there's agents, you know, if you want to talk to more about, you know, that and what people should kind of, what these emerging photographers should look for.
Yeah, no, definitely. And I completely missed that one. So in London, there used to be sort of 2 different types of agents. You would have your sort of boutique agents who would represent between 3 to maybe 10 photographers. 10 seemed like a big number. And then you had your sort of much bigger outfits that had always represented sort of 25 photographers. So they were very used to having a much larger team to manage that. Since photography has become, well, the industry has become so popular, and we have so many photographers and lots of emerging sort of interesting photographers, the photographers' agents are having to take on more photographers. So the people who only had sort of between 8 and 10 photographers now have 15 photographers, because that's the way that they've tried to balance out their sort of income as a business, by having more photographers who get less commissions, but they're still able to run the business. Now that sort of started happening about 5 years ago, and has sort of, it's kind of the trend carried on. But what's happening now, this year, really more than anything, is this sort of model of agent stroke production company. And actually you get this in Asia quite a lot. In Asia, they have, agents don't seem to have anywhere near as much importance as the production company, and the production company organizes everything, and they call all the shots, and they hold all the money, and the clients are their clients. So, you know, VW would go to a production company who would then come to an agent and hire their photographers. I can remember working with China for the first time, and thinking that was the most bonkers thing in the world. But actually it started happening here in London. So we've got lots of agents who are either just sort of expanding into this sort of production model where they're agents, but they also sort of market themselves as these sort of production companies and get the kind of client and then try and keep the client in-house and work sort of on a relationship basis where they just sort of deliver everything for them. Which means that I suppose as a company you become more profitable because you can get your photographer's fee, but you can also do the casting and you can do the location finding, and then all the profit comes back into your company rather than putting it out to lots of different freelancers. So there's that, but then there's also so that's sort of happening to a lot of the boutique companies. Then you have the bigger companies, so the people who always had 25 photographers or more, and then they might have stylists and hair and makeup artists and sort of much bigger outfits, much bigger sort of companies are being bought out by even bigger companies. So I think there's a real shift in the industry at the moment, and it's quite interesting to watch because, like, having a small company which has only been going for a year myself, I'm watching what everyone's doing and going, right, okay, how can you get ahead of the game? So I think what might be interesting and could be quite good for our seminar 3 is if people started having a look at the London agents and sort of seeing where they felt they might fit more and whether they'd feel more comfortable being part of a big sort of corporation, or whether sort of a smaller boutique outfit is sort of what they're after. But yeah, there are some of these places which are going much more down the production line, and I think more people will do that.
Cool. And yeah, I think to touch upon that, I'm seeing that too, more of just like the production side of things where, yeah, they can kind of do it all. And I guess that's a different approach for a photographer to go into that lane. And then I'm also seeing, like you said, these bigger companies getting even bigger. The big one, obviously, they're in New York now, the Bowery Group. I forgot exactly. I think that's the name, but they bought CLM and they bought Trunk Club and they bought Tim Howard and they just bought like so many different companies. And so, yeah, so that's
people here. And it would be quite interesting because as a photographer who will be part of those rosters, you know, there'll be some people who think that's a fantastic thing, and then there'll be some people who are not happy about being part of something so big. You know, as a photography is such a small business kind of industry, we all work as freelancers and work in small companies, that there's a sort of comfort in that. So it'll be interesting to sort of see how people react to these kind of great big buyouts. And I'm sort of interested in the business plan as well. I think it's quite interesting.
Yeah, cool. All right. So I think, that nobody seems to have any further questions. Obviously, we'll be able to follow up during sessions 2, 3, and 4. So I think this is kind of a good start. And I think one thing we'll try to push forward with these is that, you know, we see this as, you know, you do this session and learn, take this in and really just, you know, review what's been said here and try some of these things out. So, you know, start doing research on some of the things that Jennifer has said here. And then you could take this into the next phase, which is we're going to talk about, we're going to talk about, you know, getting your portfolio together and how to market yourself. So now this is a good time to think about what's happening in the industry now and where you want to go in the industry and what your goals are. And then this next phase, we'll talk about, based on some of those goals, how you can get there. And they're very different, whether it's trying to get into a big agency, boutique agency, shooting more commercial, or being more of a art/commercial photographer. This is kind of a lot of different things we covered here, which is great. So Jen, thanks for jumping on this first session. This has been awesome. Oh, and she has something else to say.
It was on, just to sort of follow up from what you just said, Jamal, is if anyone wants to send, can people send questions in between now and next time, or?
Yeah, we can do one of two things. We could obviously email them, or we could post them onto the next session, and then we could cover them there. That's probably the better way. That way they'll be organized.
Because what I was going to say was, Jamal and I have sort of structured these sessions as to what we think would be interesting for you guys to hear about. But it would be good if you can sort of maybe give us an overview of what it is that you want to get out of these sessions too. And just so we don't miss anything, because it's a lot of time for you guys to sit and watch us, but also for us to then give you some of that stuff. So I wouldn't want to spend all these time going and then you go at the last fourth session, go, oh, well, actually my only thing that I really wanted to work out was this and we haven't touched on it. So that would be really useful. And also, Gavin, we've ignored your 2 questions from earlier on purpose. So I'm really sorry.
Yeah, but we're going to move those to round 2 because that's where they should be.
So the one about client and getting new clients, we'll talk about next week. And then the first question about sort of mistakes that people can make, I'm building into the 4th one because I think that's fantastic, and there's some really good watch outs that I could give people and kind of examples that I can share. So.
Yeah, well, I'll move both of those questions to their proper sessions.
Yeah, cool.
Cool. All right, Jennifer, thanks so much for joining us for this first session. Everybody, obviously, if you guys have any questions, like she said, feel free to join, check out either session and add them to there, and we'll try to make sure we're answering them. If you guys have any feedback about audio or video quality or any general advice, we'd love to hear that as we push forward with these upcoming sessions. So Jennifer, thanks you for joining us, and everybody else tune in 2 weeks for the next one.
Okay, cool. See you later, guys.
All right, take it easy.